How accurately do action films portray the experience of flying in a glider? I've found some movies that get it spot on, but there's some classics that get the physics of engineless flight all wrong. So here's my analysis as a glider pilot of 2 films about actual gliders and another 2 about powered aircraft that unexpectedly turned into gliders. Let's start with The Forgotten Battle. The film tells the remarkable story of World War II glider pilots and also the unlucky troops stuck bouncing around in the back. They're flying a British Airspeed-Horsa-Glider being towed behind a bomber, but anti-aircraft flak shreds half their left wing. And now the tow cable gets caught, so the crew have to roll the glider so they can decouple from the tow plane. If this was a real feature, it seems like a design flaw and a less than ideal solution. The Horsa was a pretty chunky wooden aircraft, but here we see it whizzing down past other aircraft. I just don't imagine it would be aerodynamic enough to convert height into speed so well that it would be able to overtake glider-tug combinations flying below it. Horsa gliders could fly as slowly as 77 kilometers per hour with their flaps down before they stalled, but this one is clearly going much faster with the damage to its left wing. All up, more than 1,200 gliders were involved in Operation Market Garden. In the description, I've added lots of links for further viewing. In summary, it's brilliant to see this film telling the often forgotten story of military gliders, but my only criticism is that some of the flying looks just a bit too sped up. Still, I'd give this scene 8 stars out of 10. Next, it's a Bond film, No Time to Die. We've got 007 and Bond's sidekick in some uber high-tech glider with folding wings. Q could do with some drill practice as he gives some dodgy bent finger salute.
Have you ever flown one of these things before?
Nope.
Next, we see a C-17 at high altitude with flaps retracted so it's flying fast. That glider gets sucked into the airstream, flopping nose down, and that would cause a rough deceleration, probably rough enough to break bits. Recreational gliders have a velocity never exceed around 270 kilometers per hour, but these guys look like they're punching through the clouds way faster than that. Modern gliders have a glide ratio around 50-1, but this glider is a bit more thick and less aerodynamic. So it seems unlikely the glider would be able to skim above the water for dozens of kilometres. Luckily, the glider turns into a submarine. With some peculiar operational security practices, the spies proceed to dump their top secret transportation in enemy territory. So this scene, super cool, but just too many moments where belief has to be suspended. I'd give it 5 out of 10 for gliding realism. Now, Dunkirk, a great film I want to give 10 out of 10, but the scene with the gliding Spitfire just bothers me. When all hope is lost, the pilot still commits to a dogfight and swoops in to shoot down a German dive bomber, saving the lives of British forces trapped on the beach. But he won't be home for tea and medals as he's now out of fuel. So he starts at about 300 feet above ground level, and maybe he was pushing max speed around 600 kilometers per hour. But a Spitfire only has a glide ratio of 13-1. However, the pilot keeps managing to glide and glide and glide for a full 2 minutes. He opens his canopy, closes it again, lowers the flaps, and oh blimey, he better start manually lowering the gear. I just don't think it's realistic that this Spitfire had the potential energy or kinetic energy to stay airborne for so long. For reference, here's real footage of a World War II P-51 Mustang that had an engine failure during a flying display. It took about 5/5 of airfall to come down from 300 feet. The pilot did a stellar job as he never stopped flying it through the rough landing. But as you can see, gravity gets a big say in your gliding planning. So as much as I love Dunkirk, I just wish they hadn't tried to reinvent physics. It pains me to say this, but I'd give this specific scene a 6 out of 10. Finally, Sully, the true story of the 2009 event where an Airbus A320 had just taken off from New York and promptly punched in to an unlucky flock of Canadian geese. both engines inhaling about 50 KFC buckets worth of bird, and suddenly it became a glider. But you know what really grinds my gears? People calling this the miracle on the Hudson. Divine intervention doesn't really give credit where it's due. It was aircraft design, pilot skills, air traffic control and emergency rescue efforts that all added up to ensure no one died that day. Captain Sullenberger had done lots of recreational gliding throughout his life, so he eyeballed the height and distance to the nearest airports and knew the angle was too shallow to glide there.
We are unable. We may end up at the Hudson.
He slowed the aircraft down to 230 kilometers per hour, carrying just enough speed to prevent the wings stalling while carrying the minimum kinetic energy into the landing. But one question I have, we see the pilots put their arms on the dash. Wouldn't they be able to tighten their shoulder straps so that they can't flop forward? But have I got it wrong? If you're an A320 pilot, let me know. It's a minor complaint against a brilliant scene. I'd give it 9 stars out of 10. So are there any other gliding films that I've missed that I should be reviewing? Let me know in the comments and make sure to subscribe for more gliding adventures.